Hi, the video I'm going to make today is a card for my sister Lisa. This is an intro card. It has a woman reading a book in grayscale, and then on the inside you see the color version. It's very simple. I have pre-cut all the different parts to the card, and I will list the dimensions down below. Let's get started. The materials for this card will be a card base cut to 8.5 by 5.5, a pink mat cut 4 inches by 5.25 inches, patterned floral paper cut 3 7/5 inch by 4, patterned stripe paper cut 3.75 by 1, and be sure that you cut it with the stripes going this way. Black scrap cut 3.5 by 3, a white scrap cut 3.5 by 2.5, a white strip cut 4 inches by 1, some copy paper, or just regular printer paper, cut 3.75 by 5, and some 1/4 inch ribbon. You'll need 4 inches of this. This card only uses just this one stamp set. It's called A la Mode by My Favorite Things. This is the girl who will be reading. This is the sentiment for the front, I love a happy ending. And this is the sentiment for the inside. Here's the story. It has several die cuts. All of these are Spellbinders. Classic ovals, large. I'm using this one. Ribbon banners, I'll be using this one here. Lacy ovals, I'll be using this one. And this is special layering stamps die cut. I'll be using this rectangle. This is an optional step. You don't need to do it, but I found when I'm lining up papers from different sizes cutting that sometimes I get a little off. So I'm going to put these two papers together and then do a final trim with this to make sure that the edges are even. This is an optional step. The first step is to take the copy paper and glue the two floral paper and the stripe paper to it. The first step is to make sure to put enough adhesive onto the copy paper so that the paper will stick to it, and then a little extra adhesive onto the papers itself. You have to be careful to get the edges as straight as you can, but since I'm going to be using the optional step of doing the layering cut, I don't need to be super careful with this, but it is good to be precise. Now, to cover the two papers, I'm going to glue the ribbon between them so you can't see it and add a little bit of interest. I use Tombow, but after I made this card, I decided the best way to do it is to use the small tape gun that you see there. I wouldn't recommend the large ATG because it's a little cumbersome and it'll just get in the way. The best way to do ribbon is to leave it on the spool and only cut off as much as you need to prevent waste at the end. It takes the Tombow a little bit extra time to set up. So as you see, I'm going to cut that off. Now I've trimmed off the edge using the layering die cut. And now it's just a matter of adhering it to the pink background. Making sure that I get it straight, because if it goes on crooked now, it'll really be obvious on the card. Now, taking the black scrap and the Spellbinder die, the lacy oval, I'm going to cut out the frame, but I already have one done to speed this up. Now I'm going to make the sentiment for the front, putting the paper in the lower corner of the MISTI, and I'm going to use the die cut itself to help me ascertain where I need to stamp. So you see me place it properly in the right orientation on the strip, and then lay the stamp directly over it, and then close the MISTI and transfer the stamp to the door. This is a little trick I figured out after I did the first stamp. You double check and make sure that the paper hasn't moved and just stamp it. And you have to be sure to remember to clean that off later. So now I'm going to take the die cut and go to my Big Shot and cut it out. I also grabbed some picked raspberry, and I'm going to highlight the banner to make the edges a little bit more prominent using my sponge dauber tool. I got a piece of paper to protect my work surface so I don't get ink all over the place, and you just dab it on. It's a very simple step. It doesn't take anything, and it adds a lot of interest to this particular die cut. And then just punch it out. And now to move on to stamping the inside of the card and the front panel. Make sure that you have the paper in so that the valley side is facing down so that you have the strength of the paper up. And make sure that you're stamping on the inside of the card in the proper way. Take the white strip and put it in place, and then align the stamp up, centering it over the tip. This is an extra step. You didn't need to do it this way. You could have just stamped the panel and then stamped the card separately, but I was trying to save a little bit of time. Now take the sentiment and make sure that it is centered properly between the left and the right edges of the paper. Close the door of the MISTI and transfer the stamps. And now you see I pulled the white strip away. And now I'm inking it up and transferring the image to the card. And now for the panel, you only need the top part of the stamp to be inked, so you don't need to go all the way down with it. And I have to be sure that I line it up about where it was originally before I stamp it. And that's both sides done now. Be sure you remember to clean your stamp off before you put your MISTI away. Now you will take your focal image and take it to your Big Shot with your oval and cut it out. Make sure when you're lining the oval up that you get as much of the girl's head into the picture as you want, and as much as the book. And now it's all cut, ready to go. The only thing left to do is to color it grayscale. I didn't have to do it grayscale. I could have replicated the inside, but I thought this was better. I'll speed this part up so that you don't have to watch the slowness of the coloring. The coloring for the grayscale is done the same way as any other color. You get 3 shades of gray and a black and just focus on the lights and the dark areas to give the proper shading. Now it's time to move on to the inside panel. I have shown the coloring several times, but you can use any colors you like as long as you remember that you will need a light shade, a medium shade, and a dark shade to achieve the best blending. I'm going to speed this part up also. And if you have any trouble about coloring, just give me a call. I'd be glad to help. I'm not an expert at it, but I'm getting better over time. as you would too. I'm starting with the lighter areas. I didn't have to, but I thought it would be easier for me to keep track of where I am in my image. Now that I have the coloring down the way I want it, I'm using my aqua pen to blend in the colors. Be sure that you do not blend two colors side by side to keep the colors from washing into each other. Give the time for the colors to dry between them. Hop around if you need to. So I'm happy with how this looks. If you weren't happy, if you wanted more color, you could always add more color at this step and just keep blending out with the water until it looks how you want it. There's no real right or wrong way to it. Just keep going until you're happy with it. I decided that I wanted to sponge the edges of the panel a little bit. So I grabbed my black soot and my Ranger Distress tool, and I'm just going to ink the edges up a little bit. Notice how I keep my sponge from my distress tool on the bottom of the distress ink using a little bit of Velcro, so it'll always be handy and available when I need it. And I think that looks a lot more interesting. Now it's just a matter of adhering the panel to the lacy oval. And I decided to use my Tombow because it's a little bit more forgiving. You have time to move it. And now I'm moving on to assembling everything together. I made a couple of changes from the original that I did. For example, I am using ribbon instead of the yellow paper, but I thought the ribbon looked nicer. And I've lost my bone folder. That's what I'm searching for, but I found it. So being sure that I put the panel together so that I don't have the inside going one way and the front going the other, which you saw I had it upside down, but I caught that. And I decided to use Tombow again for the outside because it's a little bit of forgiveness is available and I can move it if I need to. The sentiment I decided needed to be popped up a little bit on foam tape. You just cut a thin strip, the the width of the panel, and just put it on. It's very simple. I cut it a little too long, so it's just a matter of trimming it off and it's fine. And as you see, the pink highlighting really made this banner text pop out a lot. I really like that extra step. Now just putting it on straight if as possible. I did get a little bit crooked, but I thought it was okay. And I decided I preferred it over the oval itself. And that's the finished card. I hope Lisa likes it. The inside was a little colorful, but I thought it was a really nice touch because she's an author to have a card with a book. So thank you for watching, and I hope everything was clear. Thank you. Bye-bye.